Thank you very much for joining me today. The United States Senate is now debating an $886 billion defense authorization bill. This is more money than all the other discretionary programs in the federal budget combined. And what I'm saying now is that unless there are major changes to this bill, I intend to vote against it, and let me tell you why. Everybody knows that our country faces enormous crises. As a result of climate change, our planet is experiencing unprecedented and rising temperatures. City after city, country after country are seeing record-breaking heat waves. Along with the rest of the world, we need to make major investments to transform our energy system away from fossil fuels and into energy efficiency and sustainable energy, or the life that we are leaving our kids and future generations will become increasingly unhealthy and precarious. Our healthcare system is broken. While the insurance companies and the drug companies make hundreds of billions of dollars in profit, 85 million Americans are uninsured or underinsured. Our life expectancy is declining, going down. And we have a massive shortage of doctors, nurses, mental health practitioners, and dentists. Our educational system is teetering. While we have one of the highest rates of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth, millions of parents cannot find affordable and quality childcare. The academic test scores of our K through 12 students lag behind many other countries. And the number of our young people who graduate from college is falling further and further behind many other major nations. All the while, 45 million Americans are struggling under the weight of student debt. Our housing stock is totally inadequate. While gentrification is causing rents to soar in many parts of this country, some 600,000 Americans are homeless, and 18 million people are spending more than half of their limited incomes on housing. 3 blocks, just a few blocks away from our nation's capital, Americans are sleeping out on the streets. These are just some of the crises our country faces. And we're not dealing with any of them in a significant way. And then there is defense spending. Well, that is a whole different story. The proposed military budget that the Senate is now debating would increase defense spending by $28 billion to over $886 billion, the highest spending level ever. The total, in fact, is over $900 billion if you include nuclear weapons spending through the Department of Energy. So let me be clear. I will oppose this bloated defense budget and efforts to further increase military spending through a defense supplemental bill for 3 major reasons. First, more military spending is unnecessary. The $886 billion in defense spending agreed in the debt ceiling deal matches the Pentagon's budget request and is more than sufficient to protect the United States and our allies. In other words, this amount of money is what the Defense Department asked for. They don't need more. The United States now spends more than 3 times what China spends on its military. This record high defense spending would come in spite of the end of the war in Afghanistan and despite the fact that the United States spends more on the military than the next 10 countries combined, most of whom are allies. Second, the Pentagon cannot keep track of the dollars it already has, leading to massive waste, fraud, and abuse in the sprawling military-industrial complex. The Pentagon accounts for about 2/3 of all federal contracting activity, obligating more money every year than all civilian federal agencies combined. Yet the Department of Defense, the DoD, remains the only major federal agency that cannot pass an independent audit. Last year, the department was unable to account for over half of its assets, which are in excess of $3.1 trillion. The Government Accountability Office, the GAO, reports that the DoD still cannot accurately track its finances or post transactions to the correct accounts. Each year, auditors find billions of dollars in the Pentagon's proverbial couch cushions. In fiscal year 2022, Navy auditors found $4.4 billion in untracked inventory, while the Air Force identified $5.2 billion worth of variances in its general ledger. A serious effort to address this waste should be undertaken before Congress throws more money at the Pentagon. Third, much of this additional military spending will go to line the pockets of hugely profitable defense contractors. It is a corporate welfare program by a different name. Almost half of the Pentagon budget goes to private contractors, some of whom are exploiting their monopoly positions and the trust granted them by the United States to line their pockets. Repeated investigations by the DoD Inspector General, the GAO, and CBS News have uncovered numerous instances of contractors massively overcharging the Department of Defense, helping boost these companies' profits to nearly 40%, and sometimes as high as 4,451%, while costing U.S. taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars. Transdim, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, and Raytheon are among the offenders, dramatically overcharging the taxpayer while reaping enormous profits, seeing their stock prices soar, and handing out massive executive compensation packages. Last year, Lockheed Martin received $46 billion in unclassified federal contracts, returned $11 billion to shareholders through dividends and stock buybacks, and paid its CEO $25 million a year. Transdim, the company behind the 4,451% markup, touted $3.1 billion in profits on $5.4 billion of net sales, almost boasting to investors about just how fully it was fleecing the American taxpayer. The fact that a share of the profits from these lucrative contracts will flow back to the congressional backers of higher defense budgets in the form of campaign contributions, America's unique system of legalized bribery, makes the whole situation even more unconscionable. Let us be clear. Defending the American people is not only about pouring money into the Pentagon. It's about making sure that our children go to good schools and will have a habitable planet when they get older. It's about making sure that every American can enjoy quality health care and affordable housing. As a nation, the time is long overdue for fundamental changes to our national priorities. Cutting military spending is a good first step. Thank you very much.